You'd think a new girl would try to blend in, stay invisible, especially if she barely spoke, wore old shoes, and sat in the last row like she didn't even want to exist. But that quiet girl, the one who walked the hallways like she was afraid to breathe, she ended up doing something no one in that school would ever forget. They tore her dress to humiliate her, but they didn't know she had a secret. They didn't know what her silence was hiding. And when they pushed her too far, she didn't just fight back, she changed everything. The first time anyone noticed Isla was when she accidentally dropped her books in the cafeteria. Not because she made a scene, she didn't. She just knelt down quickly, trying to pick them up before anyone could laugh. But laughter came anyway. It always did. Isla had just transferred to North Grove High. Her mom had relocated them after Isla's dad passed away from a sudden heart attack 6 months earlier. Isla hadn't been the same since. She barely spoke, barely smiled. She had lost her best friend, her dad, and her whole world had gone quiet with him. At school, her clothes were simple, plain. Her backpack was fraying at the corners. She sat alone during lunch, always reading the same worn-out martial arts manual her dad had gifted her on her 10th birthday. Most assumed it was a comic book. No one cared enough to ask. There were whispers. Who is she? Probably homeless. She smells like mothballs. The worst came from the cheer squad, the ones who ruled the school like it was their kingdom. Among them was Heather, pretty, rich, cruel, and always needing someone beneath her to feel above. Heather hated Isla from day one. Maybe it was the way Isla never looked at her. Maybe it was the way her silence didn't give Heather the satisfaction of seeing fear. Or maybe Heather just needed someone to break. And Isla seemed breakable. One rainy afternoon in the hallway, Isla was walking to her locker, her shoes squeaking softly, when she passed Heather and her two sidekicks, Jasmine and Chloe. "Hey, thrift store Barbie," Heather called out. Isla paused, not turning around. She hoped ignoring them would make them stop. But it didn't. Heather strode up behind her and tugged hard on Isla's shoulder, spinning her around. "You think you're better than us because you don't talk? What, too shy or too stuck up?" Still, Isla said nothing. Heather smirked. "Fine. Let's see what you're hiding under that ugly dress." In one sharp motion, she yanked at the back seam of Isla's dress. The fabric tore, loudly. Gasps filled the hallway. Phones were already up, recording. Isla's cheeks flushed red. She turned, trying to cover herself. Laughter. Phones. Whispers. But then, something in her changed. She slowly looked up. Her hands fell away. She turned to face Heather fully. There was no more trembling. Her voice, when it came, was soft, steady. "You shouldn't have done that." Heather blinked. And then it happened. In one fluid, lightning-fast motion, Isla stepped forward, pivoted, and with a precise karate chop to Heather's arm, knocked the phone from her hand. It clattered across the floor. The hallway froze. Heather stumbled back, eyes wide. But Isla wasn't done. Jasmine lunged at her. Isla ducked, grabbed her wrist, flipped her gently but powerfully onto her back. Not violent. Just skilled. Controlled. Chloe backed away, almost tripping over her heels. What the hell? Isla stood still, breathing deeply. The hallway erupted into whispers. Awe. Shock. Not just because the shy girl had defended herself, but because it was beautiful. Precise. She moved like water. Like a dancer with strength behind every motion. A teacher arrived moments later. The crowd dispersed. But the video. It was already going viral. Isla sat in the principal's office, her dress partially torn but her posture calm. Principal Harris looked at her over his glasses. "Miss Isla, what exactly happened?" Isla looked down. "I defended myself. I didn't hurt anyone. I just stopped them." To his credit, Mr. Harris didn't scold her. He nodded slowly. "You've trained in martial arts?" Isla nodded once. "My dad taught me. Before he passed." That silenced the room. Even the teacher who brought her in shifted awkwardly. She was sent home early that day, but not in punishment. just to cool down. When Isla returned the next morning, things had changed. People looked at her differently. Not with mockery, but respect. Curiosity. Even admiration. Heather, on the other hand, was suspended. The video was clear: bullying, public humiliation. The administration had no choice. And for once, Heather's influence couldn't shield her. Isla still sat alone at lunch, at first. But then a girl named Marissa from the art club sat down beside her. "You were amazing," she said, taking a bite of her apple. Isla blinked. "I wasn't trying to be." "That's why it mattered," Marissa said, smiling. "You stood up for yourself. But you didn't hurt anyone. You just stopped them." By the end of the week, Isla wasn't invisible anymore. People started asking her about martial arts. Teachers asked her to consider teaching a self-defense workshop. One girl from the drama club cried, saying she wished she'd known someone like Isla last year when she was being bullied. And slowly, Isla began to change, too. She spoke more. She smiled more. She started wearing a small pendant around her neck, a token from her dad, and walked taller. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the loudest strength. Sometimes, silence isn't weakness, it's restraint. And when the moment comes to rise, even the softest voice can shake the world.